Okay, next up, I've got a dowel rod. This could be a broom handle just as easily, which hopefully most of you guys, if you're thinking broom handle in particular, will be able to get your hands on. And we're going to use this to perform a test when it comes, again, to looking from a kind of a whole body point of view at your particularly lateral stability. And again, this exercise will be fairly familiar with you. We use this as one of the exercises in the Bulletproof program anyway, a split squat. But we're going to get a bit more specific about how you execute this to allow us to then review on video. You can look back at your own videos and see where, if anywhere, you're starting to bail out of the movement. Particularly if you found the stability in the hop down test difficult, this allows us to get a little bit more controlled, a little bit more specific about what we're doing, and then ask the question of our body as we go through a dynamic yet a little slower movement to see where we're starting to bail out a little bit more closely. Okay, so we're going to start out setting up for our split squat. Let's move this down so you guys can see a bit better. There we go. Setting up for our split squat. Easy way of doing this, and I've marked this out for me anyway because I did this earlier. But with the dowel rod, broom handle, whatever you want to use, you'll see that I've made a little mark here. That little mark corresponds with the length of my leg to the bony point on my hip here. Okay, so you can feel for where the greater trochanter here of the hips are, so here and here, and you can just say, right, length of this to the bony point, there we go. Now, with that, that's going to dictate the length of split squat you're going to use. So, I'm going to put my toe in line with the little mark on the dowel rod there. Okay, so that's the front of my back foot. Dowel rod forming the midline. I'm going to have the dowel rod right up against my foot here. At the front end, my other foot is going to come right up to the very end of the dowel rod, again contacting the dowel rod. So I've got this relatively narrow stride width. It's not perfectly on a tightrope. I don't want you perfectly on a tightrope. I want to give you a chance from a stability point of view here. But once you've got that aligned and that positioning for the feet, you can pick the dowel rod up, put it up your back. Okay, I've got one hand behind your neck and the other hand in the base of your lower back. Okay, from here, what I want you to do is bend both knees and come down into a split squat and back up. Okay, now the ratio in terms of limb length versus stride width, so 1 to 1, stride length rather, 1 to 1 that we've created here, should give you enough room to be able to perform this split squat without having to compensate. Okay, now what do I mean by compensate? Well, we've got two different positions here. Two different camera angles I want to talk about. So, in the first camera angle, this front-on camera angle I want you to look at, this can equally be rear-on, I don't mind, but front-on is really, really helpful for seeing particularly where the knee goes. I want to watch, in fact, let's do both. Let's do front and rear-on, so we're going to take 3 camera angles. I want you to watch as you come down this front knee. I want this front knee to be absolutely solid in looking straight at the camera and not drifting off inwards here, not finding we're flaring out at all. Okay, we're looking at keeping that knee absolutely dead straight as we come down. Also, with our dowel rod up our back, you can see the top of my head at the top of the rod. I want to be able to keep that, again, absolutely solidly straight up and down. I don't want to see that as I shift, as I come down to my split squat, I shift off to one side or the other side. I want this to be absolutely solidly a one plane, smooth movement. Okay, what we sometimes see is that as people come down into the split squat, hips kick out. And again, as the hips kick out, especially with this narrow stride width, that's where the dowel rod is going to disappear from this direction. Okay, as my hip on this side kicks out to the opposite direction. So the dowel rod makes it very easy to see what's happening there. If we're finding that the knee is drifting in, again, that is particularly poor control of those poor eccentric control from those external rotators of the hips. So again, think glute max in particular, and certainly something that will probably happen hand in hand with a drift in of the knee with our hop down test. If we're seeing, again, that we're not controlling well from this side to side movement here, again, we're thinking glute med. Maybe you saw this also with your hop down test. I want to look at it from a side on perspective. With the side on perspective, again, I won't do the same setup because I know what it needs to feel like for me in terms of length, but you should be able to keep the down rod perfectly up and down as we come through our split squats. I'm doing this looking off to the left, the right. Yeah, the down rod should be perfectly up and down as we're at the top and as we're at the bottom and in between the two. Rather than what we so often see, which is as we come down, we get this forward shift to the down rod. That's why it's up my back, because I want to be able to observe as I keep my head, my mid-back and my bum all in contact with the down rod. I want to be able to observe that I can keep this nice upright position rather than shifting forwards. From shifting forwards, then that is indicative of tightness through those hip flexors on that rear leg. Okay, it's the rear leg that you'll be bailing out from, so let's try the other side. From here, I'll show you the rear leg so you can see. From here, it will be up here that the tightness would be preventing you from keeping this upright position. Okay, if you were too tight with those hip flexors to be able to keep this upright position, this is where you bail out to. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you can see that. So see what the right side feels like versus the left side. Go for a set of 6 reps on each side, 2 or 3 times through. Just try and get a feel for what the consistent movement pattern is. Take plenty of rest in between. I don't want fatigue to be a factor here in particular. And yeah, again, give me your feedback. Let me know how you get on.